Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Successful, safe, secure, successful, safe, secure. These are the terms that were used by Governor Abbott, Secretary of State, the Chief Elections Officer of Texas, when describing the 2020 election. Yet this bill, SB 7, rode into the Texas House cloaked in that long-standing pretext of purity of the ballot box. And that pretext has denied full participation of African Americans and Latinos in Texas for generations, Ms. Thompson, as you well know. In the recitals, if you look at page 1 of SB 7, the recitals scream out, and they say, quote, reforms are needed to the laws of this state to ensure that fraud does not undermine the public confidence in the electoral process. Members, and you can find that on the first page in the recitals. Well, members, that's a big lie. The rare instances of fraud in Texas, and that fraud that's less likely to occur than any of us being hit by lightning, they don't undermine confidence in our elections. Not at all, in fact. You know what undermines confidence in our elections? It is the lies that are told. In the face of all contrary evidence by politicians for their own and their party's political gain. The lie that an election for the presidency was stolen by people of color in America. The big lie. And when a president and his enablers tell lies that are so brazen, in fact, that one of the president's top lawyers admitted in court, quote, no reasonable person would conclude that the statements were truly statements of facts. That was just politics, remember? That was just politics. You really can't believe it because we were just talking politically. And when tested, over 60 courts across America threw out the big lie on its ear, including the United States Supreme Court, that has 3 appointees of the ex-president on it. And in one notable case in Pennsylvania, and members, at least some members on this floor are well aware of the cases in Pennsylvania, the judge found, quote, strained legal arguments without merit and speculative accusations, end quote, that were not supported by any evidence. And when the lies are so big, so brazen, and so dangerous to our democracy, guess what happens? Police are killed. Police that were locking arms to protect the U.S. Capitol when it was overrun. Lies so big and dangerous that the former Vice President of the United States would have been hung by a mob during the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Lies that were so dangerous that Republican and Democratic members alike, members of Congress, including the Speaker of the House, were called to be killed. Lies so dangerous that when we showed up on the first day, instead of a joyous time celebrating people's election and a new legislative session where we serve the people of Texas, we were met by security briefings and credible threats against our lives. This is not Democrats, Republicans and Democrats and Texans. And this bill, members, this perpetuates the big lie. And it offers the same pretext in its recitals that resulted in findings of intentional discrimination against voters of color by this Texas legislature And this isn't some old-timey black and white newsreel. That was last decade alone. And that's not me saying it. I know you guys tell me all the time you hate when I talk about that. These are not my words. These are the words of bipartisan federal judges in 3 federal courts, including a federal court in San Antonio that found unanimously, with 2 Republican appointees and 1 Democratic appointee, intentional discrimination by this legislature on voting rights matters. That is damning. Yet we stand here today in a state where soon you can carry a gun without a permit, but you must swear an oath under penalty of perjury to help your madrina or your padrino simply cast their constitutional vote. And members, that's just wrong. But that's where we are in this state. Members, we must rise. We must rise in the spirit of the late Congressman and civil rights hero John Lewis to make good trouble on this bill. We must rise as the defenders of the vote. And we will rise, and ask you to rise with me, against the big lie that SB 7 perpetuates. So join me in voting no. Join me in voting to protect the votes of Republicans in Texas. Join me in protecting the vote of Democrats in Texas. Or just join me in protecting the rights and the votes of Texans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members.